On Instagram, deplorable_rhetoric. And on Twitter, we rant the number 2 rate.
Good morning. Welcome to She's the Boss Radio Network, 24 hours, 7 days a week, focused on topics to build, strength, and inspire, as well as motivate men, women, and youth from the home to the conference room and around our community. I'm Sigourney,
I'm Aron.
and this is Deplorable Rhetoric. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to be a part of the show, you can call in 443-272-5922. You can also go to she'sthebossradio.com or listen to us on tunein.com or Shoutcast. You can tell Alexa or Siri to play She's the Boss Radio. And also follow She's the Boss Radio on Facebook, She's the Boss Radio on Twitter, WSTBRN on IG, and WSTBR on Twitch and Tumblr. Okay, so we're just going to jump right into it since we got a super late start today. One of the things that I know I wanted to talk about was centered on Brandon Scott. There's a few things going on that he's involved with, of course, because he's mayor, so there's always going to be something. But I did see some articles around this guy. Something fishy was going on. This guy, it was like a tit for tat thing. So this guy donated some money to him, and then turn around once Brandon became mayor. All of a sudden, this guy he got X amount of money. I don't remember how much it was. I have
10,
to refresh my memory. Got 10,000 from Brandon. I think it was more than that. I thought something I saw was more than that, but yeah. So of course, people are talking about corruption and things like that. So this is for the Baltimore Brew, which was this one that came out today. So, oh no, I'm sorry. This particular article came out 4 days ago, but it says former corruption investigator files ethics complaint about JP grant donation to Mayor Scott. But there was one even before that when it first came out. Oh, here, I think it's this one. So, controversy over Mayor Scott's campaign.
Excuse me. The retired chief investigator, yeah.
So, this is Fox 45 News. This is from the 13th. So, it says questions about a $5,000 campaign contribution kept growing after Mayor Brandon Scott accepted the donation from businessman J.P. Grant. Days after accepting the contribution, Baltimore's Board of Estimates approved a $12 million. Yeah, this is what I saw. $12 million contract to a company connected to the grant. So former city and federal prosecutor Thoreau Vinaraja joined Fox 45 News to weigh in on what this donation and its subsequent look like. And we don't really need to go into all that, but yeah. So that's basically the small piece of it. And then I see this other article about the corruption and blah, blah, blah from the Baltimore Brew. So that goes on to say the retired chief investigator for the Maryland State prosecutor has filed a complaint with the Baltimore Board of Ethics about a campaign donation that Mayor Brandon Scott recently accepted from J.P. Grant, the Columbia businessman who funneled $170,000 to former Mayor Catherine. And I also saw that piece somewhere else. Former Mayor Catherine Pugh as part of her Healthy Holly children's book scheme, and most of us know how that went. And that's a big reason why she's not even mayor anymore. James Cabezas, who spent 3 decades as the state's chief public corruption investigator, says he was concerned about Scott's potential conflict of interest for accepting donations from Grant and 2 other people, which were first reported by the Brew. State campaign reports show Scott accepted a $5,000 contribution from Grant on October 31st. 3 days later, his campaign reported donations totaling $10,000 from 2 people affiliated with Commercial Utilities LLC, a company that the Brew has reported has ties. That the Brew has reported has ties. No, it's not written right. That's why I said what has reported has ties to Grant. The contributions came just before the Board of Estimates approved a $12 million increase to an underground conduit contract that Commercial Utilities co-manages with KCI Technologies. So Scott didn't attend the November 6th BOE meeting, but his designee, Christopher Shorter, voting on the mayor's behalf, approved the hefty boost.
I bet he did.
So it goes into more of it, but what do you think so
corruption. I mean, like I said, Brandon
we had high hopes for him, anti-corruption, just because of how he was with being city council president. He was on things. He was holding people accountable. We felt good about him being president of the city council. Now that he's mayor, I'd rather get Jack Young back, and that's saying a lot. Cause Brandon, you at least we know if Jack Young was taking money, it's not gonna go to his suits. It might be a wig, whatever. But come on, dude, Brandon,
Yeah.
he's going. Like I said, he might have had good intentions in the beginning, but corruption is corruption.
Yeah, and also there was another link to another article within that article. This one was from the 7th, but it's just kind of funny because this is Mayor Scott accepts money from businessmen he disavowed during Pew's Healthy Holly scandal. So yeah, I mean, you sit there and you talk crap about somebody, but privately you're like, yeah, give me that money.
Right. That's what gets me. It's like, come on. You
Yeah.
know the connection between these two. This company has done nothing for Baltimore City on its own standing. It has nothing. It's benefited from Baltimore, but has not invested in actual Baltimore. It's invested in itself. And I know all companies have to invest in themselves to grow, whatever, but you have to do something within your community to keep money coming in, to keep your business where it is. And if I saw that this person recently, it's not even 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the corruption with Catherine Pugh happened, it was just recent. So why would you get in bed with them? Because now you're tied to them. And I don't know how the BOE is going to deal with it, but I know Brandon has been MIA for a while. He's going to continue being MIA, just like our city council president now. We have no leadership. It's like the patients are running
Yeah,
the
he's
asylum right this point.
yeah, seen this headline too. City Council lauds, LAUDS lauds Marilyn Mosby for 8 years of distinguished service. So they're over there dealing with that. That's what City Council's doing. But in this other article too about Scott disavowing this dude. It says cleaning up city government and restoring public confidence is my top priority was the reason Scott gave for returning the grant contribution. He subsequently abstained from approving another master leasing contract to Grant, which was pushed through by then Mayor Jack Young. Now that he is the mayor, Scott has accepted what he once rejected. On October 31st, his campaign commitment reported a $5,000 donation from Grant, $1,000 short of the maximum contribution allowable, according to state election board records. Uh, Scott got still Scott still got more money from two parties linked to the construction company that the Brew has identified as secretly financed by Grant. That company's Commercial Utilities LLC. And so the firm CEO, Ron Adolph, gave $5,000 to Scott on November 2nd. On the same day, Judy Johnson, wife of Kevin Johnson, Adolph's boss and head of Parent Commercial Group, gave $5,000. So the three contributions constituted 80% of the money that Scott raised. Damn. In
Right.
his most recent financial report, which covered the period October 24th to November 15th.
Brandon.
So,
You going in timeout. Go sit down in the corner.
yeah. So I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, yeah, you sit there and talk all that crap, and like the word they use is disavow. So you're disavowing somebody, and you want to turn right around. I mean, to me, it only shows that you're telling people that you're easily corruptible, that you can be bought, whatever, whatever. So that's all
The
that
bell
says
has
to me.
rung. So now we know that you're easily corrupted. 5,000, that's all it takes to corrupt you?
Right.
Got you.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. And so
He's a cheap buy.
yeah. I mean, pretty much. I don't. He ain't doing nothing else. So, but
At least Catherine had 170,000. You cut it down, not even half. Like you,
yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Brandon, you cheap as hell.
Yeah.
And I guess that 5,000 went to his afro.
Right. So quickly before the break, though, I did want to weigh in on this. This is something that Moran and I have talked about as far as term limits. We talked about it a number of times. So this is from 3 days ago. I have mentioned that Councilman Dorsey
Mm.
has been trying to get rid of the term limits, trying to repeal it. And anyway, so this is from Fox 45 as well. It says, despite overwhelming support from voters, Baltimore City Councilman Ryan Dorsey continues to push repeal term limits. So we sent questions to Councilman Dorsey asking, one, if 72% of voters approved question K, why aren't you listening to your constituents?
Mm-hmm.
Two, do you refuse to accept the voice of the people? And three, are you willing to put your career on the line for this legislation? Now, normally, I don't follow him tightly, but I have seen some posts from him on Twitter and stuff like that. Normally, I like the stuff that he puts out there. It seems like he is, at least again by a few tweets. He was doing stuff that were for the people or for the betterment of people, but I'm not really sure where he's going with this one. But it says Fox 45 News has reached out to the councilman with those questions 3 times. We still haven't received a response. Giovanni Patterson with the group Peace said he believes Councilman Dorsey is really making it clear on how he feels on the majority of people in Baltimore City. 72 people voted for term limits. Not only that, yeah, percent. Yeah, I said that earlier, so hopefully y'all remembered. Not only that, across the city, 72% of people in his district voted for term limits. So what that is saying is the person that gets paid by taxes, him and his colleagues know better than the people who pay taxes. So Patterson added that this all goes back to the culture of once you're in government, you are better than the people mindset. So, I mean, again, I would need to hear what his reasoning is for that. And I think we did go over that, but I don't remember. So, yeah, but at any rate, we have to go to break. We will be right back.
We don't break the laws. We just make up our own. The internet's best choice for music. She's the boss. Radio Network.
Hey, I'm Jenny James for Neatly Done Carpet Cleaner. You've probably been home a lot more. Maybe you have kids like me who spill all the time, and you've noticed that your carpet's not looking so good. Why don't you call Neatly Done Carpet Cleaner? They use a dry extraction service, so you won't have wet carpet all day long, and you can get back to doing the things you love with your family immediately. And it's a way to make your room healthier while improving your indoor air quality. You can do tile, slate, granite, ceramic, area rugs, and yes, they're pet friendly too. Why don't you get a free, no obligation estimate today? NeatlyDoneSanAntonio.com.
Beauty's in the eye. We complicate things when all along it's just perfect as it is. Beauty is from within. It's how you feel, not as how others see you. Skincare shouldn't be complicated. She's the Boss believes skincare should be nurturing, easy to use, smell delicious, feel refreshing, and look incredible. She's the Boss Cosmetics and Skincare brings you our botanical-based skincare line that's gentle, uncomplicated, and extremely effective for men, women, and youth. Feel confident and radiate a power glow that flows from the inside out. Exude an assurance that extends from the home into the conference room. Visit us at www.shes-the-boss.com or call us at 866-494-5945 to get yours today.
Information is power. Learning from active professionals? That's priceless. Functional Training Zone. It's career awareness you can't get in the classroom. Become a trainer. Make a difference. Visit functionaltrainingzone.net.
We don't break the laws. We just make up our own. The internet's best choice for music. She's the boss. Radio Network.
All right, everybody, we are back. So let's keep going with the stories. Just to keep it somewhat local, we'll talk about Westmore now. I happen to see an article, that oh God, The Wooten Common Sense, the official news source for Thomas S. Wooten High School. That's where I got this article. Um, all right, so this is from 4 days ago. Governor-elect Westmore plans comprehensive changes to Maryland education system. So, all right, so Westmore made history in Maryland as the first black governor, as most of us know, and then even his lieutenant governor is the first immigrant um, to hold office in Maryland, or I guess at least as lieutenant governor. Um, yeah, it says elected to statewide office in Maryland. So the race was called by the Associated Press on November 8th. Of course, Moore got 64.7%. So no, I don't think anybody was surprised that he was going to win anyway, because Cox just was an idiot. He's a Trump supporter. And if anybody's been following Trump, they would know that he is losing support left and right, not so much from his base, but from Republican politicians and people like that. So I don't know if he ends up running against DeSantis. I don't know who's going to end up winning. But at any rate, we're here to talk about Moore. So Moore does come from a long line of educators and has made it clear education was a top priority. Blah, blah, blah. His administration plans to break down longstanding inequities and work to deliver world-class education to every student, impacting schools across the state. I am so glad that Wes Moore was elected as our governor, and I believe he will make a positive change, Junior Nico Dorazio said. The Moore-Miller administration will continue the transformation of Maryland's education system by fully funding and implementing the blueprint for Maryland's future. Based on recommendations from the Kirwan Commission, which long before we were on this radio station doing our own podcast, we did talk about the Kirwan Commission, and they did provide a number of suggestions to help improve the educational system. But things weren't popping off like it should have, because the Hogan just kept saying, well, where are y'all gonna get the money from? And that was it. So nothing, not too much came from that. But anyway, the landmark piece of legislation was passed in 2021 and includes a plan, for extensive changes to Maryland's public school systems, increasing education funding by $3.8 billion over the next 10 years. Well, there you go. So it did pass in 2021. The blueprint focuses on preparing students for success in the modern workforce and lifting historically underserved communities through 5 distinct pillars. 1, early education, childhood education. 2, high quality and diverse teachers and leaders. 3, college and career readiness. 4, more resources to ensure that all students are successful in governance. And 5, governance and accountability. Moore has committed to working with local school districts to ensure the blueprint receives funding and is implemented at the state level so children are supported from cradle to career. I mean, that's going to be interesting, especially from cradle. Like the first 5 years, you're not even in school. So what are you going to be doing for me and my kid, during that period? But, next paragraph. Starting from cradle, some more plans to reduce the cost burden of infant and toddler care, which is desperately needed. The Moore-Miller administration will fully fund the Child Care Scholarship Fund and ensure more families are able to access the funding by streamlining the application process. They will also work to lower the cost of preschool and explore ways to expand the criteria for free preschools so more families are eligible. Strengthening Maryland's early childhood education and child care programs and supporting Maryland's early childhood workforce is a large part of the Moore-Miller administration's education plan. You have anything to add before I keep going?
You know what? I'm so tired of this. Like, okay, this is everything somebody wants to implement. And the thing is that the idea is great, but then getting a politician to actually put it into works is the hard part. Like, we shouldn't fight that hard. Because in Washington, D.C., the early child development from cradle to kindergarten or whatever, or first grade, the city takes care of. These kids are taken care of in Washington, D.C. But every other state, it's like, we're pro-life until the child is born. There's no care. So I just hope one of these politicians actually do something to help.
I mean, yeah. We'll see what happens with that. Since the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively impacted students' social and emotional well being, Moore wants to implement new approaches to support and address trauma in students, providing including providing support to hire and train more school counselors, social workers, psychologists, and ESPs so the student to adult ratio meet industry standards. So that to me means it's not meeting industry standards right now. Moore also wants to provide specific support to LGBTQ students who are at high risk for bullying, harassment, and suicide. Another key part of Moore's education plan is combating the school to prison pipeline evident in schools across the state. Students in Maryland are arrested at a higher rate of 3.1 students per 1,000 compared to the national arrest rate of 1.2 students per 1,000. Jeez. As Governor Moore has promised to reinstate Maryland's Commission on the School to Prison Pipeline and work to implement the Commission's recommendations. Moore wants to eliminate criminal penalties for disorderly conduct because he believes it is a wide charge that criminalizes adolescents' behavior. Moore also plans to work with local law enforcement, school districts, and teachers to create a model for school resource officers, ensuring they are not involved in school disciplinary decisions. Maryland schools are experiencing teacher shortages across the state. Nearly half of Maryland educators leave within the first 3 years, and more than 5,500 teachers in Maryland have left the profession in 2022. Moore has recognized the importance of addressing teacher shortages and will combat this challenge by raising educator salaries, providing funding to programs that promote teaching professions, expanding innovative teacher mentorship programs, and strengthening collective bargaining rights for educators, ensuring educators can include class size in agreements. Um, so then it just goes on to say that the administration believes supporting students as they transition out of school and into the workforce is important. Moore plans to implement a service year option program into the blueprint that will enable high school graduates to serve for 1 year in a public service role in exchange for job training, mentorship, support, and compensatory tuition at a Maryland college or university. Moore also wants to create more opportunities for students to participate in not only dual enrollment programs, but also apprenticeships, recognizing higher education is not the path for every student. We will invest in apprenticeships and trade programs so that in our Maryland, every young person has a pathway to long term economic success. So,
I mean, I don't know if Poly and the other high schools have um, trades. I know Mervo does, but trades are good. But if it was connected to a community college or a university in the state of Maryland, if there was a straight pipeline between the trades and these schools, that would be great. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I think trades for these kids, it's a great idea, but when you apply for a job and you say, "Yeah, I don't want to go to college, but I have a trade certificate for doing this, that, and a third," a lot of employers are not going to accept you. And you know how I feel about tax-free companies, these Fortune 500 companies that are here in Baltimore. Come on, you're here, you got your warehouse here, but what are you actually doing for the city? You're already here tax-free. So take that money that you save on paying taxes for the city of Baltimore and do something with it for the community. But that's just my opinion.
yeah, I think he has a good foundation for what he wants to do with all of this. I'm just hoping that he's able to do it. So, what I did want to do is just gonna be it. Seriously. Anyway, so yeah, Maryland Coalitions of Families is what I'm looking at now. So I wanted to just briefly talk about what the Kerwin Commission is. And so according to this website, it was given two tasks to make policy recommendations schools to enable Maryland's schools to perform at the level of the best performing school system in the world and to propose changes to the current funding formulas for schools. So the commission has made a number of recommendations to achieve these goals. And again, a number of these Hogan had issues with because he simply didn't know how they were going to try and pay for it. But it's a full day education for 3-year-olds from low income households, universal pre-K for 4-year-olds, better college and career readiness training, higher salaries for teachers, better teacher training, more resources for at-risk students, transparent governance and accountability, and more money for schools where many students live in poverty. So the commission was to submit its final report to the legislature by December 2018, but it is continuing to work for another year, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so that's basically in a tight nutshell what they were recommending. And so $200 million was allocated to begin implementing some of the recommendations, and it is anticipated that the commission will request an additional $125 million for 2019. So yeah, it's a lot of money, and that is why Hogan was like, "Well, where are y'all gonna get it from?" But I do remember the problem being nobody seemed to just come up with a solution. It was just like, "Here's the recommendations," and Hogan's like, "Yeah, no."
And
So
he stopped following through on any recommendations a long time ago. His sights have been on higher ground that he's never going to accomplish. But hey,
well, now, yeah, but I mean, a few years ago, I don't think he was thinking necessarily about the presidency, but like when all this was happening, 2018, 2019. So this one was from last year, April 2nd, because it did end up passing, so something had to happen. This is from Maryland Matters. Hogan allows Kerwin 2.0 to become law without his signature. So yeah, one thing, because I don't know everything and I'm still learning. So one thing I did learn, I think even as early as this year, was that if something's not signed, it can still go into law. So they can just like not deal with it, and mayors, governors not deal with it, and it could just continue passing on. So,
but it looks better if he had signed it. Yeah.
So, citing fiscal concerns, Governor Lawrence J. Hogan R. announced Friday that he will not. Well, I'll finish this when we come back from break.
She is too funny with that crap.
We don't break the laws. We just make up our own. The internet's best choice for music. She's the boss. Radio Network.
Beauty's in the eye. We complicate things when all along it's just perfect as it is. Beauty is from within. It's how you feel, not as how others see you. Skincare shouldn't be complicated. She's the Boss believes skincare should be nurturing, easy to use, smell delicious, feel refreshing, and look incredible. She's the Boss Cosmetics and Skincare brings you our botanical-based skincare line that's gentle, uncomplicated, and extremely effective for men, women, and youth. Feel confident and radiate a power glow that flows from the inside out. Exude an assurance that extends from the home into the conference room. Visit us at www.shes-the-boss.com or call us at 866-494-5945 to get yours today.
Yeah, that's the sound of today's business community. It's a dog-eat-dog world and only the strong survive. The challenge is navigating the ever-changing business environment to put your business in the forefront. So how does your business keep up with the changes? That's where She's the Boss Network comes in. She's the Boss Network is an internet media network that's been helping businesses like yours get the exposure that you're looking for at reasonable cost by way of radio and video. They'll help you stay successful by navigating change and seeing the big picture. After She's the Boss Network analyzes your business and marketing strategies, you'll start to see a media presence like you've never seen in your business before. And She's the Boss Network doesn't stop there. They use their findings to create a practical plan of action, a plan that will get your business from where you are to where you need to be. There you go. Lock those dogs up for good by giving She's the Boss Network a call at 866-494-5945, extension 101, or by checking their website at shesthebossradio.com. Again, that's 866-494-5945, extension 101, or shesthebossradio.com.
Information is power. Learning from active professionals? That's priceless. Functional Training Zone. It's career awareness you can't get in the classroom. Become a trainer. Make a difference. Visit functionaltrainingzone.net.
You could listen to one of those other stations, but what would your friends think? You could listen to one of those other stations, but what would your friends think? She's the boss. Radio Network.
We're back. Okay. So let's continue on. So citing fiscal concerns, Hogan announced Friday that he will not sign a complementary bill to the blueprint for Maryland's future, the multi-billion-dollar education reform plan that was enacted into law this year. But the new legislation, formerly known informally as Kerwin 2.0, will go into law without Hogan's signature, and the governor wants the legislature to revisit the measure next year to figure out how to pay for it. Excuse me. So the bill was sponsored by the presiding officers. Well, if people want to know, it's Senate Bill 965, House Bill 1372. It was sponsored by the presiding officer of the General Assembly and would adjust the timeline of the blueprint for Maryland's future, as well as address the learning loss that occurred during the coronavirus pandemic. So Kerwin 2.0, named for former University of Maryland Chancellor William E. Kerwin, the architect of the blueprint, extends tutoring programs to students in grades 4 through 12 and increases funding for digital devices and behavioral health support. So after recognizing a learning loss caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and supporting the extra tutoring and summer school programs under the new legislation, Hogan wrote in a letter Friday to Senate President Bill Ferguson and House Speaker Adrian A. Jones that there is not enough money to fund the blueprint from fiscal year 2027 through fiscal year 2033. As a result, the state would have to increase taxes in order to fund the measure. So that's kind of where, they started getting into stuff because nobody, especially Republicans, don't want increased taxes. They're all about lower taxes. But also, to me, don't ever seem to offer any viable alternative. So, increased taxes sucks, but so does your kids being stupid. So if you want them to have a better education and, have better books and stuff, then, do what you got to do. So without a funding source identified, this would require the state to inflict crippling tax hikes on Marylanders who are also struggling to recover from the pandemic, Hogan wrote. In total, Maryland's households would pay $3,150 more in taxes on average, he wrote, citing a need to raise income taxes, property taxes, or sale tax to fund education reforms.
I have a quick question. Now, Westmore was interviewed by The Daily Show's Trevor Noah, and from that conversation, I found out that we had a surplus. So I'm trying to understand, what's going on with that? How do we have a surplus, but yet you guys want to increase our taxes? That's because the money you got from the federal government, you haven't done anything with.
Yeah. And this was only last year, April of last year. So the surplus, I imagine it was still surplusy. Yes, last year, I'm sure we were still, not in a deficit.
So to me, listening, when I heard that, to me, it tells me that somebody was stashing some cash or somebody didn't get what they needed. Because every entity within the government, the state government, states, this is what we need to run it. Because last year we ran it with this, we were short this, so we need more money. So how in the world do we have a surplus and you're still talking about increasing our taxes? Yeah. Use the money that we've already paid you. It's like we get the brunt of it all.
Yeah.
We already paying your wages, but it's like, I need an increase, and you tugging at us. Leave us alone. We've already paid you. We found out there's a surplus. Work on that. 32, million or $1 billion in surplus? Come on now.
Yeah, so the Washington Post is being an ass, but let me see. WYPR. Okay. So Maryland's nearly $2 billion surplus boosts rainy day fund schools and state union pay hikes. But the funny thing is, when I try to click on the Washington Post one, it says amid inflation, Maryland saw a $1 billion surplus. But then it says, let me see if I can Maryland racks up a $2 billion surplus again. Mm-hmm. So it's not the first time. So
My point exactly. Like,
so-
what the fuck y'all doing?
right. So again, this is from NPR. The Maryland's nearly $2 billion surplus boosts rainy day fund, schools, and state union pay hikes. Maryland has a revenue surplus of nearly $2 billion in its general fund, and this is from September 14th of this year. For the fiscal year that ended June 30th, Comptroller Peter announced Wednesday morning the surplus stems from a massive, unanticipated influx of revenues. So that's what I was really looking for. Is like why
The influx.
but a massive from like where for the second consecutive year. So as a result of personal income tax receipts from wealthy taxpayers and federal COVID-19 relief aid, the state had $5.5 billion in its general fund as of June 30th, compared to $2.5 billion by the end of June 2021. So we just got an influx of revenue 2 years in a row.
But again, I go back to saying this. You guys are thinking about, when I say you guys, I'm talking about politicians in the state of Maryland, talking about increasing taxes for residents of Baltimore City when there is money there. Use that. You have these great plans, Mr. Westmore. Do something with that. Don't come in wanting to hike up stuff, because you're not going to make it to the second term.
Well, to be fair, no one has said that that's what he wants.
No, but it's going to eventually go there.
I mean, possibly, yeah. I don't know. I mean, he knows we have a surplus. He may just use that. That would kind of be the smart thing. But it does depend, because with education, so much is going to be needed as far as, well, just resources, which is obviously going to require money. But there's so much more that Maryland needs, too. Like, its infrastructure so shit. And I'm just basing that off of Baltimore City alone.
Right.
Like, y'all stay doing construction, and the city still looks like shit every time I drive around, which is every day.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't understand that. But, I mean, y'all take, 2, 3, 4, 5 years just to fix a road or pipeline or something.
And
like,
then
I don't
come
understand.
back in the next year to do a 3-4 year.
Yeah,
as soon as you finish it, you're coming back to do the same job. Get it right, or y'all ain't.
It just seems like it takes forever for anything in Maryland to be fixed, and I don't get that. But
Well, some parts of Maryland. Not,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Montgomery County, they're gonna get all their shit fixed quick. So, but also I wanted to make a point. So this says that as a result, we got more money as a result of receipts from wealthy taxpayers and federal COVID-19 relief aid. So if we can get a surplus, just getting tax receipts from the wealthy taxpayers, again, if we did that on the national level, we'd be better off for it. I mean, we got a surplus because of that. I mean, again, also the COVID relief. But those are the only two things it's mentioning. So that means that the taxes we got from them was significant enough that it made a huge difference. So why on the national level? I mean, I know why, because Republicans don't want to do it, corporate Democrats don't want to do it. But my thing is, like, tax these damn people. They're not going to miss the money.
You know how I feel about churches and getting taxed. So
yeah, I mean, and that's a piece of it. But I also feel like we would get way more money if we actually taxed all the rich people that should be taxed properly. Like, we could get more through taxes, I believe, just from Bezos and Musk than all the churches. Because, I mean, there are some churches like Austin's church and a few others that are, accrue a lot of money, but not Musk and Bezos money.
No.
So that's why those two fucking dingleberries need to be taxed straight to hell.
Oh, dingleberry.
Yeah, they need to be taxed, a lot. And it should go, again, based on how much you make. Like, don't tax me the same you would tax them, because I'll be
I ain't got it.
I'll be broke the rest of my life, because I'll be paying y'all if y'all did that. So anything I make would go straight to y'all. So, I don't know, man. Like, this is I don't know. I have, high hopes for all of this. And the education system desperately needs this. Like, again, what's her face needs to get out, because she's taking too much money as it is. Was it $400,000? What was her salary?
Who was
again?
that?
DeSantis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not DeSantis. Santa
Yeah, 400.
Yeah, like, that's ridiculous. Like, there's no reason why you should be making that much. And not only that, because there's no evidence you've done anything. The school system sucks.
Yeah.
Not even when
And
it
it's
just comes to
not even-
academics, but again, the infrastructure of the schools is crap. The HVAC systems are messed up in all the damn schools. Security alone. No one wants to send their kid to school so they can get shot.
Yeah.
But that's happening.
And Lena works at the schools. And one day, last week, I was talking to her on the phone, and I hear this roaring sound in the background.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what in the world. Where are you? Are you standing by an airplane that's getting ready to take off? Like, that's the sound. Like she was standing.
I'm at BWI. I'm about to go.
Yeah, it sounded like she was
state.
near an engine. She goes, no, that's the air conditioning. That's the heat.
Oh my gosh, they got a 1957 air
Girl.
conditioner, probably the size of the damn room.
Well, even when my son was at Mervo,
Yeah.
when all that happened with no heat, no air in the schools, instead of going down in the basement and fixing, upgrading the heating and the cooling system, they put these massive generated air conditionings in the schools. And it's not in every class. It was in one specific area where it's just blowing the cool air or the heat at that time. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you just wasted thousands and thousands of dollars on this piece of shit when you could have just fixed and upgraded, put new systems down in the basement, and the whole school would feel as cool as the main office.
Yeah, and before we go, I want to read this part. This reform is paid for through 2027. Dean Ben Barnes from Prince George's. He's the chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Education and Economic Development Subcommittee. But he said, but the bottom line is that this legislation works together with last year's bill to fundamentally change how we fund public education through accountability, prioritizing concentrations of poverty and other historically neglected populations, and by making sure the money follows the students we have set, Maryland, on a path towards world-class education for every student. Under the revised blueprint bill, state spending will increase by $4.6 million in fiscal year 2023 and to $65.2 million by fiscal year 2026. Meanwhile, local jurisdictions would spend $15 million more in fiscal year 2026, but will be saving almost $70 million since local school districts would not be required to pay the local share of some funding formulas in fiscal year 2022, according to a fiscal analysis of the bill. So that's just a lot of damn numbers. Mm-hmm. I'm not even sure I comprehended what I read, but at any rate, hopefully y'all did. Hopefully y'all understood, because we got to go. We can't explain nothing anymore. So thanks for tuning in and listening to the show. Again, this is She's the Boss Radio, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And you can go to she'sthebossradio.com to check out everything that is going on. You can also listen in on TuneIn and Shoutcast to tell Alexa or Siri to play She's the Boss Radio. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the owner has found some new platforms for us to be a part of too. So we are expanding and we are growing and we're doing the damn thing, just so y'all know. But anyway, you can also like She's the Boss Radio on Facebook, She's the Boss Radio on Twitter, WSTBRN on IG, and WSTBR on Twitch and Tumblr. And of course, we're Deplorable Rhetoric on Facebook, Deplorable_Rhetoric on Instagram, and we rant to rave as long as it's still there on Twitter. Talk at y'all later.
I might be blocked.
Maybe.
Thanks for joining us. We are Deplorable Rhetoric on WSTBR. Join us every Tuesday at 10 a.m. You can also reach us on Facebook at Deplorable Rhetoric, on Instagram, Deplorable_Rhetoric, and on Twitter, we rant the number 2 rave.